The psychology of selling. Why do you do what you do? Why do they do what they do? What's the lens? What's the perspective, the perceptions? It's fascinating. And if you want to be a better seller, you'll dig in deep. And that's what we're going to do next with Robert Perry on Purpose Under Pressure. Well, welcome back. My name is Brian, and this is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about developing sales and leadership success on purpose and under pressure. It's brought to you by the professional sales and leadership training team at Sandler by the Ruby Group. You'll find them in Akron and in Columbus, Ohio. They're in Jacksonville, Florida. They're in Capital Region, New York. They do their work on purpose. They do it where you are, regardless of which office that you're working out of. They'll come to you. They'll understand you, your organization, your market, your customers, what you're trying to do. That comes first. Folks, you've got to be on purpose. You've got to have a plan. And that is what Sandler by the Ruby Group is all about. You'll find out if you give them a call and just talk about it a little bit. I highly encourage that. You'll find them at therubygroup.sandler.com. The Ruby Group, master the pressure, lead with purpose, and deliver results. So let's get cooking. You know, it's funny. We sellers are in the people business. Say, why do you want to be a seller? Because I love people. You hear that quite often. So we know people, at least we should. It's so hard, though, to understand people. Why do they do what they do? Why do they act the way they act? Why do they say the things they say? And then they completely say and do and act completely different. And I wonder, are they saying the same thing about me? Maybe. So Sandler by the Ruby Group, they talk about transactional analysis, and that's a couple of big words, but I think it can shed some light on what we're talking about here. My friend Robert Perry, he's a partner and trainer at the Ruby Group, is here to help me out. Robert, you just heard that whole thing. What's going on? Are we all just flaking out, or what's happening here?
Brian, definitely not a flake out. It's just not a complete understanding of what state we are presenting our information from. We, as human beings, communicate out of three different ego states. And these ego states have been long imprinted in us throughout our lifetimes, starting from birth. It's how we sort of recognized how our parents reacted to stimuli and the emotions we took from that. And much of our conversations and interactions with our personal family lives or in the work world really stem from three different ego states of the parent, the adult, and the child.
Okay, I've heard that. The parent, the adult, and the child. So we're talking psychology here a little bit. I guess that makes sense since it's people with people. I bet salespeople aren't always thinking that deeply, right?
Correct. A lot of people are so focused, and I'm talking about the sales individual, on what they're trying to say, and not really thinking about how it's being communicated across to the listener. And this is a little bit more in depth, or how can I say, more complex than just understanding DISC personality and DISC communication. It really centers on the place in which we're delivering our information. For instance, The parent ego state is separated into two, and that's the critical parent and the nurturing parent. So by virtue of those two words, we already get an idea and thought that what one may be versus the other. Well, let me dispel some myths behind the critical parent. The critical parent lens in which we deliver information from doesn't say, hey, Brian, you did a poor job at this. Hey, Brian, you're not able to do that. That's not the sense of critical. Okay. When we use the word critical, it's how we present information from a judgmental, directional state. So if I were to say in my critical parent lens, hey, Brian, go do this. You should do it that way. Hey, you know what, Brian, stay away from topics like this in your podcast because it'll kill your business. Okay. That is me presenting information to you from a lens of the critical parent. And we've all seen
things.
I know things, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what it does to you as the listener is you're starting to question, well, why doesn't Robert feel that I have enough intellectual capabilities to make my own decisions? And that creates conflict, okay? Wow. So that's the critical parent lens. Let's look at the nurturing parent lens. And, the word nurturing,
It sounds nicer.
short of me reaching through this screen and maybe giving you a warm hug, nurturing is inviting the listener in. And I can invite the listener into a solution, problem, or challenge, one, by asking questions, but it's how I present the information, the tonality in which I'm using, and of course, you're going to watch my body language as we communicate together. So I'm going to invite you in, especially in sales. This is why it's so critical to help co-create a solution to the challenges you may be seeing in your company.
So are you saying then, so it's not the buyer really that is having the parent issues, it's more the salesperson that's either saying this is how it's done or asking for help. And so where does what can go wrong when I'm not in touch with which lens I'm looking at and my buyer is completely off the page? How can this affect things?
Well, Brian, you presented it in the right way. I may be doing the wrong things in how I present the information to the listener. But I, as the salesperson or the person on the other side of the conversation, have to realize that they themselves, the buyers, the people we're talking to, are in some area of an ego state.
They're in that too. So I'm in
Correct.
mine, they're in one. And is it mine? It's not the same as mine, maybe.
It absolutely. And I'm going to tell you from a sales standpoint, most times when you and I walk in the door with all intentions and beliefs to provide assistance, provide guidance to help out a challenge in their organization, they themselves start from a place called the critical parent. They're defensive.
They
There's
know
no
it all
trust.
already. Yep. Okay.
Brian, you're going to use all my money. Brian, you're going to charge me too much. Brian, I'm going to have to call other people to verify. So they're in a defensive mode already. So let's think back. I tried to give you a little definition between critical parent and nurturing parent.
Yeah.
70% of all our engagements in sales, if we want them to be successful, has to come from the nurturing place. We have to get in touch with our nurturing center. And it really asks us as sales individuals to step back from a lot of telling about the solution to more asking how we can solve the challenges in their world. And I'm going to overuse the word co-create, but co-create a solution. The word co-create right there is us inviting prospects, buyers, even existing clients into the solution-making process. And when we can do that together, number one, trust goes up, defenses go down, and you start to see magic happen.
So now I'm going to channel our listeners and watchers, and I bet right now they're saying, but what happens when there's a child in the room? Because you mentioned, Robert, you said child, you said parent, you said adult. I'm trying to do my best as a nurturing parent.
Yeah.
What if I'm dealing with a child, or what if I'm acting like a child? Tell me more about that.
Most certainly. The two other areas of the ego state are the adult. That's the rationale person who kind of weighs all decisions. Things are placed in front of us, and we got enough information to make decisions. Adults do that. Yeah. Children, though, in its bare essence, is the emotional center that we all have inside of us. Now, that child inside of all of us, it has recorded tapes we saw not only from our parents, but authority figures who've been around us for years. And we watched how they reacted to stimuli, be it good or be it bad. And we internalize those emotions, and that's how we react to stimuli that hit to us today. Now, you brought up a question about the child.
Yeah.
Any parent out there knows sometimes it's a little difficult to deal with the child. Yeah. So at Sandler by the Ruby Group, we have to work with our clients to make sure that their child stays out of any business call, stays out of the room, stays out of any engagement. Because if you watched any children out on the playground, it's always hard to get things done because they're fighting back and forth. And I don't mean physically, but they're challenging each other's knowledge base. So our child ego state must remain out of the room. However, We as sales individuals would love to have their inner child in the room. Why, you may ask? It's important for us to have their inner child in the room for two things. Number one, like children, when they go to Costco or they go to the store and they see something on the shelves, they want it. Correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it, I
And
want it, and I'm going to cry if I can't have it.
absolutely. And the second part of that is we want them to want the solution we're working on. So that's a really good thing about having the child in the room. Okay.
Okay.
Ours will stay out of the room because we want to avoid conflict. Once we engage their inner child to want the solution that we're working on, then we transition that inner child to adult so they can weigh the options that have been presented before them so that they can sit there and say, you know what? That solution makes sense. And I can present that to my leadership team. I can put that into action. I can deliver this information to the field force.
I love that because I started this podcast talking about what is going on. This helps me to understand what is going on. It doesn't help me change it necessarily, at least until I'm well trained. But at least even as an untrained salesperson listening to this podcast, at least I can say, okay, is my customer today coming at me from an adult, from a child, from a parent, and how might I respond or help manage the situation? At least now I have an idea of where they're coming from. Is that kind of the way this works? And if they reached out and if those folks talked with Sandler, this isn't one of the first things that we dive into. This is a little more advanced, or is it something that maybe you talk with an owner and say, look, this is what's happening in your sales relationships. How does that work?
Well, we most certainly want to present this early on in the relationship with any new client.
Really?
Because they
Okay.
have to understand the framework by how human beings communicate in the processes that go through these things. Once we get an early understanding, then I can have more in-depth conversations about how your sales team will better engage with their prospects and their buyers. But we've structured our program around how to better reinforce these things. I gave you an example earlier on exactly how the environment, the sales call speeds up immediately once we walk in the door. If I'm not in touch with the muscle memory that I've been working on, the heavy lifting in the gym per se, then I'm going to miss out on the opportunity to really understand where my buyer is. But with the right sort of energy, the right focus, the right preparation, the right pre-call planning, these are all things that clients of the Ruby Group have seen tremendous success with. It's a lot up front, but if you're willing to put in the work with Sandler by the Ruby Group, trust me, you will find the benefits. And that is why our clients are seeing exponentially greater sales goals that are being smashed, as well as pipelines that are full.
Because I guarantee you, the salesperson that came in before you or came in after you isn't talking about child, parent. They're not into that deep. A well-trained salesperson is at least going to be thinking about that. Folks, that right there is a crash course in what really I think separates our sponsors here, Sandler by the Ruby Group and Sandler Sales Training, from a lot of others. Sales is not easy. You can't just show up and say, here's what I got, here's what you got, here's how we're going to get, here's the price. That's not going to get it done these days. These days, it takes this kind of an onion where if you just unpeel the first layer, you're going to be better. If you go a little deeper, it's going to show you another little layer. If you go a little deeper, there's more than what you even thought was there in the first place. This transactional analysis, it's deep, but man, it'll shine lights on the problems that you're having and your salespeople are having that you never even knew existed. And so if you hear any of this rings true, reach out to these folks. Just start the conversation. Robert, if they call you, you're not going to sell them anything. You're going to ask questions, right? Because you're going to come from a nurturing parent. And so if they wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Certainly, you can reach out to the Ruby Group. My name is Robert Grant Perry. My email is robert.perry, that's P as in Paul, ERRY, at Sandler.com. Feel free to reach out to me on my cell phone and text me 216-650-6522.
That's Robert Perry. Thank you very much, sir, for being on our show. He's a partner and trainer with Sandler by the Ruby Group. I encourage you to use those digits, give him a call, give them a call, and do something to further your organization on purpose. Folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We do this kind of thing every single week, and I love it because I know there's nuggets in there for you that's going to make you better. And I know there's nuggets on the other side if you'll reach out to someone to help you get better. So go ahead and tell a friend to watch this podcast, to listen to this podcast so that they can be on purpose too. You'll find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at brianmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. Brought to you by the Ruby Group, practical sales and leadership coaching for high pressure moments. Until next time, no matter how high the pressure, stay on purpose.